I have noticed something interesting come up every time I talk to people about 1-800-PAIN. Many people have given Pain the moniker of Death Gecs, and I understand why. Both Pain and Death Grips are industrial hip-hop groups from California, and both Pain and Gecs embrace nightcore's sounds with its pitched-up vocals and trance synths. Both of these bands, Grips and Gecs, share another thing in common, being shock bands. Death Grips, or at least early Death Grips, and 100 Gecs both are bands to show people if you want to shock them. Both bands have a sound that is considered away from the mainstream, but is still parsable enough as to not be completely alienating. It's not harsh noise or anything like that, it's just weird enough to make people say, what? But normal enough to have people not immediately call it off as being not music. 100 Gecs is shown for the shock value of its production, the digital alteration of vocals, general MIDI being openly embraced, and the bass exploding through everything. Death Grips is chosen for its screamed vocals, its noisy beats, and the chaos that it produces. As mentioned earlier, 1-800-PAIN shares a lot of these shocking elements of these two groups. When we listen to music, we often notice what is quote-unquote wrong in the music before we notice anything else. And when two classic shock groups have another group synthesize their influences, it is bound to result in something interesting. Now, this sounds fine, but a problem arises when it comes to the discussion of the synthesis of musical influences. With music, 1 + 1 can never equal 2. Now, that may make no sense, so let's put this back into the context of 1-800-PAIN. Death Grips plus 100 Gecs does not equal Death Gecs. Looking at music as blank plus blank is helpful at times and helps you understand a band's sound better, but as with most things in music analysis, the initial observation is never expanded or reflected upon. This group sounds like two bands because of the vocals and the beat. This is a bass, not based, a bass observation. There is no focus on how the group uses its influence in interesting ways, how it goes farther than those influences and diverges. When I see people say stuff like Death Gecs, I get mad because it stops us from getting to the real stuff. How does this band blend its influences? How does it improve upon them? When you say something like this band sounds like two other bands, and then you leave it at that and you don't further look into how the band improves and changes the sound, you're basically starting Skyrim, getting to the character creation screen, and then taking a sledgehammer to your console. 1-800-PAIN is one of my favorite groups coming up right now, not because it combines two musical projects that mean a lot to me. Pain is so exciting because I get to see where it goes with those influences and how it changes them. 1-800-PAIN's EP, Best House on a Bad Block, is incredibly danceable. Every song has a discernible bass drum, nailing the song down and helping the listener bop their head and move their body. This is one of the biggest differences between Pain and its influences. Pain has a much closer connection to less experimental music. Not pop per se, but it's not as alienating and forcefully odd as other bands in the industrial hip-hop genre. Though Pain is still quite noisy and intense, every person I have shown Hurt to is always grooving by the end. Even Anthony Fantano is bopping his head to it. Pain is absolutely fine with being aggressive and fun. It's a beautiful blend of experimental and groove. You can dance while being yelled at. The standout track on this EP is Hurt, and the standout hook on that song is this driving quarter note pulse of hurt, 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 hurt. It's an instant head bop, and though Hurt is the champion song on here, every song has an incredible hook, and nearly every hook is screamed. It's not just quarter notes though. The hooks come at us in many different ways. Destroy Us All has a hook built around a Billy and Mandy sample whilst also yelling shut the fuck up. Lurk has this incredible blast beat with the words I don't need it repeated over and over again. Screaming is prevalent everywhere on here. Very little is half-assed. There are no whispers. Not every line is screamed, however. Lines are also delivered through nightcore-sounding vocals. The majority of verses are done in this style, offering this nice contrast from the screams. A forceful human voice contrasted with a digitally altered voice. Nightcore is an interesting choice for sure, and it presents an interesting challenge to the group. Nightcore vocals, a timbre featured in songs such as Angel with a Shotgun and Every Time We Touch, needs to be blended well with the aggressive and chaotic nature of the music surrounding it. How would one go about making that work? Well, the way Pain overcomes that challenge is by leaning into Nightcore's vocals not as cute sounding, but as noticeably odd. The human voice is something that can be easily pointed out as wrong sounding, whatever you want that to mean, due to the amount of time that we spend with it. This is why so many people are mad at autotune, but could never really pick out when someone is splicing together a drum track. Because of this, Pain's already wild and unwieldy sound doesn't get thrown off course by having these nightcore vocals in there. Instead of it being a cutesy ugu anime thing, God forbid, it instead becomes something much more harsh, alien, and different. It becomes another way of expression for the group, another odd sound that fits the vibe of the tracks. You don't often find nightcore vocals in industrial hip-hop, and this is where more of 100 Gecs' style comes into play. Hyperpop is highly inspired by nightcore and happy hardcore, with the most obvious thing that Hyperpop takes is digitally altered vocals, mainly with pitching vocals up in that signature nightcore sound. One of the reasons Hyperpop is so exciting to me is that it looks to nightcore as an inspiration. It looks at the tropes of this meme genre and tries to find emotional resonance. I had an entire video about this topic called Embracing Nightcore, so check that out if you want to hear more about this subject. Pain is so interesting to me because it leans into blending nightcore with these rough sounds. Hyperpop can be quite rough, of course. I mean, look at something like Face Shopping, but I haven't seen any other groups look at digitally affected vocals and combine it with something more harsh, something like noise or industrial hip-hop. I hope that more groups take inspiration from Pain and we can see something like nightcore vocals in, like, I don't know, harsh noise or... Yes! Okay, if anyone knows any black metal bands that have nightcore lead vocals, please let me know. And if nobody knows any of those, either I'm going to start the band or someone else is, so let's get to it. The lyrics on this album are wild. A Pokeball sample opens up nearly every track, and there are Pokemon references aplenty in here. But it is also laden with slang and other pop culture references, such as iCarly and SpongeBob. The lyrics have the ability to be emotionally provoking, as is the case with the song Cake, with the constant repeating of the lines, "I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know who I want." But the general vibe is braggadocious and horny, like all good hip-hop is. I cannot do the lyrics justice, so here's a supercut of some of my favorite lines.
I'm a pretty bitch, slow like Beyonce. 20 bucks says I can fuck your fiance. I run the books, O's, niggas stop me on the man touchdown. On your goals, nigga.
Trending, low like Doug, Jim and Dome hat. Try to see it, throw it back. Rush me, know that well is wet. Bobby's.
Someone tell this bitch that I dropped her. I can't fuck no more. Trying to see when my top curve. Here like a paper plate. Eat it, then I toss her. You look super sweet. Vegetation just like soft serve.
The lyrics and vocals on this project fit the music that is surrounding it. These beats are dense, layered, noisy. They are as aggressive and loud as the screaming and as odd as the nightcore vocals. Alarms act as repetitious figures. Drumlines sound like every bluecoat has started to take steroids, and synths overpower any other instrument that wanted to cause chaos, being the biggest bastard in the bar fight for nearly every track. The sound design on these tracks are powerful, just as loud and aggressive as the vocals, constantly hitting hard and always attacking in new ways. I often feel that industrial hip-hop beats can be quite one note, a very strong and solid A section that never really diverges from itself and can get boring if the flow and lyrics aren't enough to support it. Pain does not have this problem. Every song has an interesting contrasting section that lets the track keep its grip on you, never letting you rest. The beats are also quite varied. Outside has this dark and hazy vibe, definitely pulling on trap influences, reveling in having a frequency fog that only a snare can cut through. Whilst Shelf is slow and reverb-laden, with this choir sample laying over the entire beat, paired with these giant basses and rusty drum sounds. And Lego is bright and upbeat, with the bass and drums driving everything, having more authority on this track than any other, being able to completely change the entire song on a whim. These beats are also wide-spanning, fitting a multitude of ideas and feels within their runtime. Lurk is a great example of how expansive Pain can make a song. The song starts with a Pokeball opening and then falls into these harsh, angular sounds, jumping around in these wide intervals. Immediately, we are set into an uncomfortable atmosphere. We then hear the hook is screamed at us. I don't need it being repeated over and over again. After the song has had enough of that, it moves onto this heavy halftime feel. slowing down just a little bit to get us comfortable before hitting us with this giant, loud wall of noise. Completely different from our start. Eventually, we move on to our first chorus, putting a trap drum beat and distorted bass to those angular sounds we heard in the intro. The snare is hitting on 3. This 3 section feels normal. It feels more common to the rest of the tracks that we heard before on this EP, and we get comfy within it for about 30 seconds. From there, we go on to the verse, which completely changes its sound with acoustic drums and a cleaner bass, and the drums now hitting on 2 and 4, completely changing the vibe. And if it wasn't for this tape slowdown that acts between the chorus and the verse, it would be a wild mess, but it's a nice, smooth transition just thanks to that one little thing. With this new section, the angular synths also go away. It nearly becomes an entirely different song, one that's much more upbeat and intense, which matches the lyrics. The lyrics talk about frantically scrolling through someone's Instagram trying to find pictures of their tits whilst ignoring all their other posts. This EP fucking rules, dude. All of these transitions happen, and I shit you not, in the first minute of the song. None of it sounds too fast or sloppy. Every section works with each other perfectly. After the verse, we go back to the chorus, with the 3 becoming the focus of the snare again. Also, the angular sounds that we heard at the start are now replaced with a drumline tempo. It is subtle, but it makes the song feel much more alive and exciting, this new sample breathing in new life into a section. The second verse keeps the snare on 3 instead of going back to that 2 and 4 feel, but it serves a new purpose now. We instead have the chorus set up the hook again, where we fall straight back into that blast beat, and we have the song play out on that aggressive halftime feel. To me, Lurk is the standout track on this EP, taking the chaotic energy of the group whilst also showing their ability to morph a song into anything that they want. It shows the power that this band has. It's a track that I recommend everyone check out if they want to understand their sound. Pain's visual aesthetic is one of the biggest appeals of the band. Jody Gecs has one of the most iconic looks in hip-hop right now. The giant Hello Kitty face crying with the sparkle eyebrows whilst wearing that simple dress. It's striking to anyone who sees it, immediately burnt into your brain. It sets the band apart from any other group in the genre, with Gecs becoming the face of the band alongside producer Joan de Bonechess. I hope I'm saying that right. Fashion is important, but where this band excels is in its music videos. I imagine that when these music videos had to be made, it must have been a difficult task. Capturing the chaos of Pain's sound, whilst also getting its groove, keeping its force and its expressiveness. To translate this sound, the videos take on a quick and striking nature, never standing still and only letting you watch long enough to question what you're seeing. Flashing lights and poor camera quality are staples of this look. Pixelization, poor color correction, and fisheye lenses are openly embraced. There's a rugged guerrilla filming aura to these videos, always feeling out of place like an invader. Almost every video involves an abandoned location, whether it's a house or an amusement park. When they do shoot in public locations, it always feels a little off. It always happens on quiet streets, at liquor stores at night, dirt paths besides freight trains. All odd locations for the devil and Hello Kitty to be hanging out. Their visuals fit their music perfectly, an incredible visualization that helps the music. Even with the striking visuals, the visual aesthetic does not overtake the music. The comment section for their videos always puts the music first, with people always saying how the music bangs or is delicious. It might sound like a small thing, but so much good music has been killed in its entirety because people were focusing more on their visual look rather than the music itself. And I would hate to see this group become nothing more than a bunch of images rather than one of the most striking, exciting, and thrilling projects I have had the pleasure to listen to. 1-800-PAIN is not pushing a genre, but sound itself. Very few groups have taken their influences and improved upon them in such an exciting way, and even less have been able to take such alienating music as influences and make it groove so hard. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to get these videos early, have your name in the credits, or hear behind-the-scenes commentary, consider supporting my Patreon. I have a Bandcamp link to 1-800-PAIN in the description. Check out their music. It is really exciting stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video, and yeah, I love you. Bye.